Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have a question with respect to last class.
Okay.
Um, so it is mentioned that Lord is not responsible for a living entity is going to hell or heaven,
Hmm.
but he provides facilities, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a little difficult to understand the neutral position of God here, right? Does he not attempt to uh, bring that soul, remember about him in any way, especially when the soul tries to go to devotion, right? And sometimes still get astrayed with the uncontrolled senses, right? So in this mixed position, do we understand that the opportunity or the sukriti of meeting a person who has Krishna consciousness and getting a bona fide guru, it is still considered as a uh, beneficial point provided by Lord to help such a soul come out of nescience, right? So what is the position here? Because it's important to understand this point, I think, in more detail.
No, I mean, Lord is always equal. He is not taking away any facilities that he is provided, right? Just because somebody wants to go to hell. The facilities are always there. See, it's very easy to understand. It is like sunshine. When there is sunshine, hmm, so if I am sitting inside the house and there is sunshine outside, then um, who is to blame? Right? So there's sunshine outside. If I go outside, then I'll get the sunshine, right? But if I'm sitting inside the house, then there's no question of sunshine. So the facilities that are there, that are provided by the Lord, are always present for everybody at all times. This question of whether somebody wants it or not, even if many cases, even if given on a platter to them, people don't want. So Lord has provided the facilities. It's just that whether we want to utilize it or not. And that he will not do anything beyond the desire of the jiva. That we have to be very, very clear.
Mm.
He's provided all facilities so that people can go, see, do, use their discretion. Free will is there, that we should not forget. Always there is free will. If we don't use it, then he's not going to thrust it down our throat. So he given everything, but if we don't take it and we want to do our own way, it is simple to understand. Again, like parents and children. Child wants to do some nonsense. Parent will say no. But then if the child still wants to do, in spite of the warnings, then parent will provide the facility.
Yeah,
Like that.
but I think parents will still try their level best that the
Yeah,
child will
Krishna
come to
has
him, right?
Krishna has tried level best.
Hmm.
Level best in the sense, see, like he is not going to impede on our freedom. That we should understand. So in keeping in mind that the free will is not taken over by the Lord, he is make sure that everything is there. And then we have to exercise free will. Prabhu. See this, the difference between the child and adult is that there is intelligence in one, there is no intelligence in the other, right? So when intelligence is there and free will is there, it has to be used appropriately. Otherwise, we can't blame the Lord.
Yeah.
Facilities are provided. We have to make use of it. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, bro.
Okay. Okay, so we need to start from 5.7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gana Janashalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 5 verse 17. तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानस्तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्ति पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme. Refuge means whom or what we take shelter of. That is refuge. Then one becomes cleansed of all misgivings. Misgivings is wrong understandings, wrong perceptions, etc. Through complete knowledge and thus proceed straight on the path of liberation. Okay. The supreme transcendental truth is Lord Krishna. The whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. That is the version of all Vedic literature. Paratattva means the supreme reality, who is understood by the knowers of the supreme as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. The Lord says, Matta Prataram Nanyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the supreme reality. One whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or in other words, one who is fully in Krishna consciousness. He is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is in perfect knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneously identity and individuality in Krishna. And equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Duality in Krishna is the Achintya Beda Beda. That is duality. And equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. Okay, this seems pretty straightforward. The important thing is where our mind intelligence is absorbed. If it is absorbed in material things, then we will come back to this material world. If it is absorbed or fixed in Supreme, then we will proceed straight on the path of liberation. So we have to become fully Krishna conscious. So actually, I've been reading 11th canto. It's amazing, actually. I mean, it's like Uddhava Gita is Bhagavad Gita plus. It's a multiple times plus. So it's amazing, actually. It takes us into the next level of understanding of all these topics. Anyway, I am very excited about reading that, but I don't want to distract our focus. Point is that, our mind intelligence and everything, because we are conditioned, we are very much attached to material things. So it's only intermittently that our mind, intelligence, etc. becomes fixed on Krishna. Otherwise, we are naturally attracted to material things. But Krishna is saying here that when one is attached, one is fixed like this in Supreme, then one proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So that way we should understand where we stand today in that sense also, saying that if anybody is in some illusion that we are very advanced or something, we can be very clear that we are far from that because of our absorption in material things. So we should focus on this aspect and try to fix ourselves in the Supreme as much as possible. Okay, nothing else to say here. Anybody has anything to say, ask. Okay. 5.18 Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shwapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Chandala. Um, Actually, dog eater is outside Varnashrama. Lowest in Varnashrama is Shudra. Then there is Mlecha, Yavana, Chandala. So he is like the lowest amongst human beings. So he's saying from the best, Brahmana is the best. Brahmana, Vaishnava. So they're the best, right? Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya. Go, Brahmana. From there down to insignificant dog to Chandala. So humble sages because of true knowledge. So true knowledge, one who has true knowledge is humble, doesn't have any pride. And so he sees with equal vision. So what is this equal vision that we'll understand? Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes. The Brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species, but differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living entity as a friend. It maintains himself as Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. So, Lord himself is not discriminating that way, saying that I'm not going to be I'm going to be only in the heart of a Brahmana, I won't be in the heart of a dog or an elephant. So, similarly, when the Lord has not discriminated like that, we also should not discriminate. We should also see the presence of the Lord in every living entity. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahmana, although the body of a Brahmana and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. Actually, this statement seems so simple, actually, right? The bodies are just material productions of different modes of material nature. But the important point is that the soul has nothing to do with the body, literally nothing to do with the body. As in, I was just today, one realization came to me when I was reading this 11th canto, saying that somehow, we want to be alive. It's a very weird conversation this is going to be, but all of us want to be alive, right? Actually, we are all, and we think being alive means being breathing, right? Because the body has to be alive. That means the mechanism, the body, the breathing mechanism should be functional. So one must be breathing. But this breathing actually is not required for the soul, right? Because the soul is not breathing. Soul doesn't have a body. Soul is anyway always active. Satchidananda. The soul doesn't require the body. We have to understand this. So when I was reading that, I just figured saying that we are attached to the vital air, to the prana. We are attached to the vital air. So we actually think that we have to be alive. It's very weird actually. Because as a soul, really, we don't need to be, as in there's nothing like alive. We are always alive. We're always living. We don't die as a soul. But because we are so closely, somehow we can't disconnect ourselves from this body and all aspects of this body. So we think that this body has to be there, intact, functioning properly, etc., etc. But actually, this is nothing to do with the soul. Krishna actually gives a beautiful logical explanation in 11th canto. You should definitely read it sometime, hopefully soon. So first he says that, first of all, we don't know whom the body belongs to. We don't know whether the body belongs to the soul. We don't know whether the body belongs to the parents who have given it. We don't know whether the body belongs to the society in which we are in. We don't know whether it belongs to the spiritual master. We don't know. I mean, we don't know. We don't know whom this body really belongs to, because it looks like it belongs to many people, because of obligations, etc. Right? So we as soul, we are attached to this body, thinking actually it is ours, but it's not ours alone. We just maybe part stakeholders in the body, but we are still so attached. Just imagine, generally at corporate also, right? We say one responsibility cannot be shared with two people, because then ownership is gone, right? So we say, okay, one activity should be done by one person only. Now, who is that one person who is actually responsible for the body, or who owns the body? Actually, it's not the soul. It's a multiple. They seem to be multiple people. So, which means that then why is the soul so attached? If in this similar case where there are two persons who are in charge of one activity, maybe one person is just saying, okay, maybe the other person will do, and you just keep quiet, and somebody, one of the two who's more enthusiastic will pick up and do it, and the other person just free rides, right? But soul is not doesn't want to free ride on this body also. It's so attached. It literally thinks that it. So Krishna says one beautiful phrase. He says, soul has embraced the mind. So basically our problem is false ego and mind. False ego is the connection between the spirit and the matter. We should understand this. You please ask questions if you have any. Very deeply technical discussion between Uddhava and Krishna. False ego is the connection between the spirit and matter, which means false ego is that which is making us feel like this body is ours, right? And through what it is making us feel like that? Through the mind. So the soul has embraced the mind. Because the soul has embraced the mind, it literally thinks that, and the mind is full of mental concoctions about everything about this, uh, everything about this material world. But we should remember that the soul doesn't have the quality of material nature. Instead, it actually has the same quality as the super soul. So we don't ever seem to be we're not getting pulled to that side of super soul and spiritual quality, etc. But we are stuck with this inferior material body. So this is very, very, actually this requires a separate discussion itself. We should read this 11th canto. Today really some glimpses of the fact that I'm not this body is coming, like very like slight glimpses. Literally, we are not this body. It's difficult to, come to the stage of understanding it properly. Anyway, so the point is that body is made up of okay. The other way of actually, this is also interesting. So body is just a transformation of Panchamahabhuta, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's just a transformation. So, and there is discussion in the 11th canto about 12th canto about, or no, 11th canto, I think, about annihilation, destruction, right? Pralaya. And there it completely reverses. So, like basically, and even human body reverses itself and just becomes elements. So which basically means that this human body is simply another form, a form that material elements have taken, right? So which is another way to understand that really, if suppose we were just given earth, water, fire and air and ether, are we so attached to earth, water, fire and air and ether? No, we are not attached to it, but we are attached to one form that has come out of it, which is called XYZ, which looks like this, etc., etc. But this body is really just made up of chemicals or basic elements. So it's ridiculous to think about why are we attached to a particular form. Now, more importantly, the soul is eternal, and this particular form that we have in this body, in this life, is just so temporary and only restricted to this particular life, right? And next life, this body is not there, some other body. So then why are we so attached to this temporary fleeting body? I mean, it's inconceivable how Lord, I mean, this creation, we can't escape that kind of bondage, right? But it is insane because it doesn't make any sense. Like Krishna talks about how, suppose somebody sleeping and they're having a dream. When they get up, they just they just laugh at themselves, or they laugh at their dream, right? Saying, what was that nonsense? So similarly, this world is, though it appears real, actually it is illusion, in the sense that whatever we are thinking as us is not really us. So we are in illusion. So we are thinking we are this body, but we are not this body. This body is just some temporary, uh, you know, mechanism or form that the different elements have taken, that I need to use as a vehicle in this life. But that's the end of it. There's no further use of this body. But we are so attached to body. Everything that we do is for this body. And just imagine, this body is changing every life, but our attachment is so fleeting that when we get another body, we forget this body. But still, when we are in that body, we think that it is all in all. I mean, so many ways to think about how absurd this association is, right? I don't know. I mean, don't know if you're able to appreciate this, but that 11th canto, I mean, the Bhagavad Gita is just mind-boggling. Anyway, so I'll proceed further. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this and therefore is truly learned and has equal vision. So this equal vision is because of the fact that the super soul is present in all jivas. So in all jivas, we have to respect. We have to respect, but we have to treat them according to the body they have got, because that is the rule of this material world, right? We cannot treat a lion similar to cat that you might have at home. Hmm. The similar characters of soul and super soul are that they are both conscious. See, this is beautiful, right? So they're both conscious. So they don't. So soul doesn't require life air to be conscious. The soul is always conscious, eternal and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the super soul is conscious of all bodies. The super soul is present in all bodies without distinction. So, for like I said, one has to become humble. One has to acquire true knowledge, which is basically Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, like properly understood. Then we get true knowledge. When we get true knowledge, we become humble. Then we see everyone equally, and this is samas sarveshu bhuteshu. After this stage, only one gets mad bhaktim labate param. One gets devotional service, pure devotional service, right? Brahma bhuta prasannatma. That is the first stage. Na sochati na kangshati, alongside samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So Brahma bhuta prasannatma. When the jiva comes to Brahma bhuta stage, forgets about jiva bhuta. That means that I'm some jiva, etc. But he realized that no, I'm actually Brahman. Prasannatma, he becomes pleased. Na sochati na kangshati. At that point of time, when he is happy, self-satisfied, he doesn't have any lamentation or any desire, no material desire for that jiva. When he comes to the Brahmabhuta platform, then samasarveshu bhuteshu, then he sees all living entities equally, which is this verse. Then mad bhaktim labate param. After coming to this stage, only then we achieve pure devotional service. So this is a uh, prerequisite for coming to pure devotional service. So this is not just for some jnani or somebody who is going to see everybody equally. No, even devotees have to see every jiva equally. Okay. Any thoughts? Okay. So everybody's silent. Okay. 5.19. Ihaivatayarjita sargo yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity. Beautiful. Sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. See, this verse glorifies that equanimity that one has to develop. How elevated a stage that it is actually that we already reached Brahman stage. This is Brahma Bhuta, Samasarveshu Bhuteshu. So this equanimity, if we are equal to everything, then we have actually also conquered conditions of birth and death, because then we actually really understand that we are not this body. So there's no duality. There's no birth death for the soul. So we conquered that condition, which means that we have crossed that. We are not affected by that. So mind has to be established in sameness and equanimity. Now this is very interesting, that every moment of our life, every moment of our day is filled with things which will keep testing our sameness or absence of sameness, right? So whether we are equal or whether we are disturbed. So if we are not affected by good or bad, then it is equanimity. And every moment we are faced with situations wherein we can check whether we are affected by the duality or we are stationed in sameness. So one who is situated in the sameness, equanimity. Equanimity means basically he's not affected by the dualities of this world: heat, cold, good, bad. All these dualities, he's not affected. Such a person is already situated in Brahman, which is Brahma Bhuta. He's already situated, so he's flawless like Brahman. So he is liberated. So one who comes to this stage is liberated. This is liberation. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the science of self-realization. Those who actually attained to such a state should be considered to have conquered material conditions, especially birth and death. As long as one identifies with his body, he is considered conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity, he is liberated. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. That's all. Just imagine, just if we can be equanimity, if we can develop this equanimity, then we can enter spiritual sky. You can enter spiritual sky. And what does it take to become to be in equanimity in all situations? Just control the mind. What does it take to control the mind? Or why? How can we be in equanimity? We know that, okay, I'm not this body, nothing. I'm soul. I don't belong to this material world. Baba, I'm just far into this. I'm simply stuck. Wrong address. I put a mail with a wrong address. That's all. So I'm in a wrong place. I have nothing to do with this place. If we can be established in this thought process, then we are liberated. Really, really, I mean, that way it is simple sutra, simple thing to be implemented. Requires a lot of focus and effort. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. So equanimity, sameness, this is key. Samasarveshu bhuteshu. Any questions? So we can be very easily liberated from conditioned life. Not very difficult. Okay. Am I audible? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Like pin drop silence today. Okay. Like all of you are in equanimity and liberated. Okay. 5.20. न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नो द्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिर्रसम्मूढो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. So this is liberated. This is that equanimity, stage of equanimity. What does it mean? That no rejoicing upon achieving something pleasant, no jumping up and down, no lamenting upon obtaining something unpleasant. Self-intelligence actually means sthira buddhi, like fixed intelligence. And unbewildered, asammudo, not bewildered by things around. Who knows the science of God? Brahmavid Brahmani Stitaha. Brahmavid, so he knows the Brahman, knows the science of God. He is Brahmani Stitaha. He is situated in transcendence. So this is equanimity. This much is equanimity. No, not being pleased, not lamenting, fixed in intelligence, and unbewildered. Purport. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given here. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is a fragmented portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to the body. So clearly Prabhupada is saying, since we have nothing to do with this body, why are we jumping up and down for something connected to this body? Are we rejoicing for something happening in our neighbor's house? Are we feeling bad for something happening in our neighbor's house? No. So this body is not our house. This body is like a guest, like a neighbor's house. So ideally, we should not be jumping up and down. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, gross or even the subtle body for that matter. Nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the situation of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So this is, like I said, this is the starting stage of Krishna consciousness. Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sauchati na kankshati namas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. Starting stage of bhakti, pure bhakti. Okay. Yeah, this also same. Bhayasparshesha saktatma vindatyatmani yatsukam sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Such a liberated person is not attracted to the material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, Yaddavati mama cheta Krishna padara vinde navanavara sadhamani udyatam rantum asit taddavati patanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukasvikaraha sushtu nishtivanam cha. Since I've been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl with distaste. Person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness so absorbed in loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without its motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with great vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. So, no sense pleasure, and Prabhupada specifically saying, talking about sex pleasure, liberated person is not attracted, but he's always in trance. He's always in trance means he's always engaged in service of the Lord, and engaged in the service of the Lord, he's enjoying pleasure within, because the Atma becomes satisfied. Atma suprasidati. In this way, a self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, or he concentrates on the Supreme. So the whole point is that the mind, without getting distracted with material things here and there, jumping up and down, should concentrate on the Supreme. So then you will enjoy unlimited happiness. Okay. I think I shall stop here. Any questions from anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu. Audible?
Yeah, Prabhuji. So, as you said that in the last shloka, that starting stage for pure devotional services to come to the Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma level.
Yeah.
So, Prabhuji, at the starting level only, I mean, is it possible to come to that level? I mean,
No, starting meaning that is maybe after many years of our sadhana. But that is the starting point for pure devotional service. Right now we are engaged in some form of devotional service which is not pure, but which is still purifying, which purifies us, right? And when as it purifies, slowly we'll come to this Brahma Bhuta stage. Now till then we cannot be engaged in pure devotional service. It is impure devotional service. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Fine. So then we will connect again on Monday, Krishna willing. Anchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Veda Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, I shall disconnect.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.